want to talk? So let's talk. Yeah. Talk. You want to talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah.
Good evening and welcome. It's time for Talk to Solomon. Thanks for joining us. It's one of those days that we all know what we're going to talk about, but we'll have some other things thrown in there to boot. My name is Stan Solomon. I'm the host.
I'm Chief Steve Davis, the co-host.
And our other co-host this evening, also our guest of honor, is Greg W. Howard. We'll have you back in just a moment. I want to start this discussion on this day that everyone's talking about two things: gun control and the tragedy that took place in Newtown, Connecticut. Where do you start? Maybe asking God, why would you let 20 innocent, young babies pay the price of whatever? An individual, a family, a town, a society, a world, whatever. Why would you let these 26 and 7-year-olds pay that price? I'm sure that question has been asked. I'm sure it's been answered poorly. And I have another poor answer. I don't know. God knows. I don't know. But we can start there, and we'll spend some time, because there'll be Steve and Greg and I talking about this, and of course you can join us. We have Greg with us. Hey, Greg, how are you this evening?
I'm fine, but I can barely hear you.
Well, we'll try and turn up your volume. We have our master boardsman here, who, as soon as he sobers up, I'm sure will be on this. What we're going to start with is the discussion, of course, about what happened in Newtown, Connecticut, at that Sandy Hook, I believe? Elementary school. Now, Chief, there's a story I brought up, and I know you didn't see it, I just saw it. It says, and this is a study out of Denmark, as many as 1 in 6 babies who go through the abortion process are actually born alive and die thereafter. Some purposefully, because they don't want them to live, others because they've been so traumatized in the abortion process, they have no chance of living. I say that because I tweeted after this news came out, why is it the world is aghast at 20 innocent babies being slaughtered? And it should be, by the way. But it's not aghast about almost 4,000 every day in America, and more than 20,000 every day on this planet. Even more innocent, if that's possible, than these 6 and 7-year-olds. Chief?
Well, part of it is because people don't see it. They're ignorant to the fact of what's really going on. And so big events are dramatized. Plane crashes are dramatized. On the news media, the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary was dramatized. But other events like this, these abortions, and also every day in this country, hundreds, if not thousands, of children are murdered, or not murdered, but killed in car crashes and other types of events like that. Those events are not reported in the same way, even though there's more of those deaths occur than it happened at Sandy Hook. But I believe it's because people, first of all, they don't know, and someone's not doing a good job of telling them, which is us, our fault too. But the news media will never report this because it's about the dirty laundry and the big story.
Greg?
Well, I think Steve is exactly right. The thing about abortions is that they're about 3,300 a day, and they take place very quietly. They are out of sight. People don't see what is going on. The aftermath is not readily apparent. The news media is not there boo-hooing over the dumpsters, which are the graves of the unborn that are aborted. There is no study of the abortionist's life, who is actually the mass murderer. So as a result, this is not a front and center issue in our TV set for 48 hours straight. Nonetheless, the carnage is significant. In fact, if you want to see one group that is picked on more than any other, and I've written 2 very well-sourced articles on it, it is blacks. Over 17 million have been killed at the abortionist knife in the United States since Roe v. Wade was passed into law.
That's a startling number, and when you look at that number, it's a number equal to almost half of all black African-American people.
It is, because there are about 36 million black African-Americans in America today.
So that number is just as startling and horrifying, but the fact is, in the black community, overwhelmingly, it's not paid attention to. We could spend this whole show talking about blacks, and we're going to do some of that. When Alan Keyes joins us, I think he can give us another perspective on that. But I want to stay on Sandy Hook and what happened. Now, here's what we know, and more is known. This young man, 20-year-old, was obviously mentally challenged in some way, Asperger's or whatever. His mother recognized it and told people about it. The community knew it. He lived in a windowless basement, spending almost all of his time playing video games, violent video games. He weighed, I don't know, 100 pounds maybe. He was a vegan. He didn't want to eat meat because he didn't want to hurt animals. And that he went to that school the day before this took place. This isn't talked about, but he went there, and there was some sort of a difference, confrontation, altercation, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if he went there to volunteer, or he went there to ask about his time there, or he went there to ask about what his mother did there, or what. They haven't told us that, and I don't know if they will, because the people he talked to are dead, unfortunately. But he went there, and there was an altercation, and he went back the next day and did the terrible thing that he did. At the same time, according to the FBI, he planned this thing. This was not an impulsive act. This wasn't oh, I'm mad today, so what the heck, I'll go do this. He planned this. They say he couldn't feel pain. Maybe he had lost his ability to reason. Maybe he lost the difference between a video game and real life. We'll not know those things. And I want to talk this out, and I think that we've got 3 people who have some input. And by the way, folks, we don't take calls very often, but you can call us at 866-808-0637 if you'd like to join the discussion. So let me just kind of open the door, and we have lots to talk about. I'll start with you, Chief.
Well, interestingly, my very first assignment in law enforcement, I was assigned to a hospital, Wisher Hospital in Indianapolis, where the Sheriff's Department had a detention ward where we kept inmates that were, for some reason, admitted to the hospital or getting medical treatment at the hospital. But also part of my duties there involved, right upstairs was a psychiatric ward. And that's where all of the people with psychiatric problems that were admitted to the hospital were kept. And also we had prisoners there in that ward. Back when I started, there was a much different way that we dealt with people that had psychological problems. And so we had people there that were under arrest, and they would appear. There was a court that met there regularly, once a week, and the case would come in front of the judge, and the staff would sometimes recommend that they stay in the hospital, sometimes recommend they be released. But in almost all cases, the people that were released were remanded by the court to take their medicine regularly, and they were monitored. We used to have a hospital in Indianapolis called Central State, where people that didn't need to be hospitalized but couldn't function on their own without supervision were supervised by the hospital, Central State. Well, all that's gone now. All that's been changed. Now the courts have said the mentally deficient people, the mentally ill people, they need to have all their rights and they can roam around freely. But now they're roaming around, and many of them are in despair. Most of the homeless people that we see are mentally challenged people, have some type of mental illness, and they don't really want to be in a home or a house like we think that they do. They don't, because they have mental problems. But there's no middle ground anymore to help them. It's either psychiatric hospital full-time or nothing. And so my opinion is we need to get back to that, because it was a routine thing for us. Sheriff's deputies, we would go out all the time. We'd have a walk away from the psychiatric hospital. They'd walk away and we'd go bring them back. People that weren't on their medications. People knew it then. Everyone, their family knew they were supposed to be on medications. They would call us and say, hey, you know, Jane or Joe is not taking their medication. They need to go back. We'd go take them back to the hospital, get them back on their medication. It was a much better program than we have now.
And then it was all about rights, and the liberals are the ones that pushed to get all these people released. Greg?
Well, exactly right. First of all, there were a lot of serious issues with how this young man was handled. Giving a person with an altered personality or a deficient personality, one that is incapable of distinguishing between right and wrong, as this young man certainly was, a endless supply of violent video games where there are no rules as to right and wrong and life over death, was seriously a bad judgment on someone's part. Second of all, allowing him to go to the rifle range and teach him how to shoot and how to operate a real weapon was another serious lapse in judgment somewhere along the way, especially by a parent who told the babysitters, don't turn your back on him. He had incidents in the past where he had been violent. This is from what I've been reading from reputable sources. He had pulled a knife on a couple of occasions and had been dangerous. So this was a very poorly managed individual. He was not on any medication at the time. And so to have him access... Now, the other thing we need to remember is everything he did was completely contrary to all laws at the time. First of all, he was not supposed to be touching any guns. He was under 21. He killed his mother and stole her weapons. That was a couple of felonies right there. And once he had committed the act of murdering his mother, all bets were off because there was no greater sanction that could be put on him at that point. He had already committed capital murder. So the idea that any further threat of judicial punishment would slow him down, you know, killing children, killing teachers, there was no further sanction that could be put on him. The boundaries were gone. All behavior at that point was going to be Katie bar the door. He was going to do everything he wanted until he was stopped or stopped himself.
I think that you make a point there that is worthy of some investigation and discussion. He was going to continue until he was stopped or stopped himself. Well, he wasn't stopped. He did, in fact, stop himself, if you want to call murdering everyone that he could find stopping. He simply had won, quote unquote, the game. He had reached the pinnacle, and the only thing left was something probably that was also done in the game, and that was to shoot himself. I don't know that he even knew he was going to kill himself. I don't know that he knew he was killing those kids, because in the game you hit reset or restart or whatever the heck you hit. I've never played those games, but everyone's back again, right? The same people, the same faces, the same whatever, they're back. They don't really go away. You just have to restart the game. I don't know that he, and I'm not defending him in any way. I'm glad he's dead. And by the way, if he had been caught and not killed himself, he wouldn't even be facing the death penalty in Connecticut. Do you know that?
Yeah, I think the best they would offer him would, the most severe penalty would be life imprisonment without parole.
Which would be another, what, 40, 50, 60 years of playing video games.
Yeah.
Now, gee, there's a punishment.
With 3 hots and a cot to go with it.
Exactly. Exactly. At any rate, Chief, is there something wrong with our quote-unquote system of justice? Let me throw in a story. A fella who was troubled killed 2 Kansas police officers. I don't think they were Kansas police officers. And they weren't even the officer that stopped his vehicle or stopped the vehicle in which he was riding. They were the backup. And when the backup got there, this person started shooting, and he killed the 2 officers. Did not kill the officer that stopped the vehicle, wounded him or something. Then ran. Not very far. He was within blocks. They found him, surrounded the house, and guess what? We don't know if he tried to surrender, but we do know he's dead. We know that the police officers shot him to death. They say he didn't get off a shot. Now, in the old way of doing things, if you killed a police officer, you expected not to see prison. You expected not to see jail. You expected not to see the sunrise. You expected that police officers would hunt you down and shoot you and kill you. Am I far off on that, Chief?
Well, you're not far off, but I don't believe that a police officer's life should be more important than anyone else's life. So if we're going to hunt down killers, we should hunt down them, all of them, and treat them the same way and kill them all. Because my opinion is, and I can back this up with fact, is that if you have two people that get convicted of murder and you execute one and not the other one of them will never do it again. But I do believe that you mentioned the system and the justice. There is not much justice in the system. Justice happens somewhere else. But what I see is that we're not really focusing on the problem. Many times we look at issues, but we don't really focus on the problem. And the problem-solving steps, the number one step is identify the problem. So, for example, you come home and your kitchen floor is wet and you start mopping, you're not really fixing the problem, which is the leaky pipe. In this case, you know, the outcry is to stop. We want to stop this. We want to never have it happen again. We want to do something. When there's, in this particular case, there's nothing to do because once lives are taken, you can't bring them back. We want to do something. And so in an effort to cry out and do something, we may end up doing the wrong thing if we act in haste. But what we have to do now is identify the problem. And tragedies have been taking place. Murders have been taking place since Cain and Abel. There's always going to be murders because evil exists. So unless we can eliminate evil, we're never going to eliminate these types of events. They're going to happen some kind of way. What we have to do is just work out ways to minimize them. And in particular, like in this case, to me, dramatizes, we need to find a way to try and identify them before they happen and then try our best to prevent them. But they're still going to always happen.
All right, let me ask you a question, guys. Let's see. I can't see that quite yet, but
in most of these types of scenarios, the shooter has told someone they're going to do it before.
right, and they say this fellow also made some comments to someone, but no one took him seriously because they didn't consider him to be sane. That's a tragedy. But let's talk about it. And again, there are different ways to look at this. In any case, when someone does something wrong, it is someone who does something wrong. If a bridge falls down and people die, we had that happen, where, in Pennsylvania, I believe. We don't outlaw bridges. We try and find out what happened with that particular bridge, who was in charge of building or maintaining or designing or engineering or whatever that particular bridge, and then we check the other bridges to see if we have that particular concern or any other concerns. I remember President Obama, may he rest in pieces, was standing on the Brent Spence Bridge, one of the most traveled bridges in America, crosses the Ohio River on the way from, on the way from Chicago down to Florida on I-75, and he said, the bridges in this country are falling apart. Now, that was, 8-9 years ago, before he was even elected. Now they're trying to get money to build a new Brent Spence Bridge, and he won't approve it. So that's a side story, but my point is, the fact that people died driving across a bridge that failed doesn't mean you eliminate bridges. It means you fix bridges. The fact that this troubled, seriously maladjusted young man acted out on insanity or whatever it was means you have to deal with people acting out. In 1927, a guy got mad at his wife. She was the school teacher. So for a year, he planted dynamite around that school where no one would know it was there. And then on a particular day, whatever day it was, he killed her and he set off the dynamite and killed 58 kids. Did they outlaw dynamite?
No. Well, it is regulated, but you can still get it.
My point is...
But a criminal can steal it and use it.
My point is, if you want to do harm, does anyone believe a guy in China took a knife. It didn't even have to be a knife. It could have been a sharpened bone. It could have been whatever. He went into a school where there were, guess what? No guns, no guards, just women and kids. And he slashed and killed some, wounded, disfigured others, 20, 30 people. And no one came to stop him. He had slashed everyone. They came and got him afterwards. Does anyone believe there's any way to eliminate everything with which a person could do harm? There was a Muslim kid who drove his car into the common area at Duke University, I believe it was, and killed 3 or 4 and wounded a bunch, and did it for whatever, his reasons. Should we outlaw cars? You know what? I know of people who punch people. I know people who poke people's eyes out with their fingers. What I see coming is the only way to protect us is to make it where we cannot hurt anyone, which would mean no arms, no legs, no utensils. And you would just have the government with the ability to feed you, change you, and terminate you. Am I getting close here, Chief?
Well, there are plenty of guns in the United States. There's probably 3 guns for every person that's here, but most of the people, almost everyone that has a gun of any kind, they don't go kill people. They don't go out and do anything bad with their guns. So therefore, the gun is not the problem. That's just a fact right there. But also, owning firearms, it's in the Second Amendment of our Constitution, but it's not just a right. It's a right that was given by our founders to allow us to protect our life. That's what it was really for. And so it's a God-given right, the God-given right of life. And they stuck that in there to make sure we had the ability to protect ourselves, protect our lives from people invading our country or the government invading us or from criminals invading us, and also to protect our innocent family, either our elderly parents or our young children. It's a God-given fundamental right to protect our life.
The fact is, our government today doesn't believe in God. They don't believe in the Constitution. They don't believe their rights other than from government. Greg?
Well, you cannot stop evil by proscribing evil acts. All you can do is punish the evildoers when they commit the evil acts, because people will commit evil no matter what means they have at their disposal. I'm sitting here in my office, for example, and within arm's reach of me, there's about 8 different ways to kill a person if I were imaginative or not even very imaginative. I have some very good scissors. I have telephone cords. I have a Phillips head screwdriver. I have something glass here I could break and, slash someone to pieces with it. And that doesn't even count reaching into my drawer and pulling out old Betsy. So, the point is that people will commit evil acts. Timothy McVeigh did not use a gun. He used fertilizer, racing fuel, and a rented truck. The people who took down the Twin Towers used box cutters and airplanes. The point is we will never, ever, ever stop all acts of evil, but depriving millions of law-abiding citizens of their right to defend themselves against those who will commit evil and against a government that is hell-bent on committing evil is not the right way to go. And anyone who espouses the idea that disarming law-abiding citizens will solve the problem is simply either out of their mind or they are themselves evil.
You know, in Chicago, this Limbaugh pointed out today, there will be over 530 or 40 people killed. Most of them young people, most of them minority. Do you see the people going crazy? Chicago has the strictest gun control, perhaps, in the country. What does that accomplish? And the answer is, it makes sure that honest, law-abiding, moral, upright people are unarmed, and the ones who do harm are the only ones with arms. When you put up a sign, and maybe we can go there, that says gun free zone, you may as well have a neon sign that says, hey, perverts, lunatics, serial killers, and whatever. If you're going to do something crazy, do it here, because there's no one to stop you, no one in position to stop you. Chief?
Which also shows that the people that want gun control, they're saying that the lives that are lost in these events is unimportant. All that's important is that the government maintain control over everything. That's why they want to take the guns away, so that the government has control over us. But they're diminishing these lives that are lost. They're really spitting on them, because they're not allowing, or not even, they should be advocating that people protect life with guns rather than take guns away.
I'll talk to you about an interaction I had with the former mayor of the city of Indianapolis, a guy who thought very highly of himself, thought he would be governor. He wasn't. In fact, I think at the present time, has a job as a doorstop in a burlesque house. We'll be back in just a moment with more here on Talk to Solomon. You have a computer, if you're alive today, which means you have a hard drive, which means it's going to break down. Mosey, the backup people, for thousands, for Stan, for thousands of people, for tens of thousands of people, is simply common sense. You go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and sign up. It's just a few dollars a month. Let me tell you something. We had a break-in. They stole our whole computer. You know what? When they take the computer, you can't recover anything, but we had Mosey. We had the backup. We were able to restore everything simply by buying another computer. cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and give yourself common sense, peace of mind, great value, the best thing you've ever done. Sooner or later, it's going to be Mosey, the backup people. I like to eat. Do you like to eat? We all do. And usually we run to the grocery store, we run to the convenience store, or we have something in the fridge. But power's been out in parts of this country in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to come down the pike economically. Smart people are putting in food. Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves is a line of foods that you can put away that will last for a very long time. You know, they say eat what you store and store what you eat. This is great tasting stuff, healthy for you, a full line. You go to our website, cpnlive.com, and click on the button for Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves and see all the different things we have. This is good tasting food. It's reasonably priced. It will last. And it's worth its weight in gold if a problem arises. I know you don't think there's going to be anything that goes wrong. Actually, you do. This is smart. This is smart insurance. This is smart preparation. This is smart thinking. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have parents, you have dependents, you have an appetite. All those things can be addressed by a frugal but smart investment in Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves. Try them out. You will be tickled to death with the taste of them. You know what? In many cases, people start to eat this and they think, heck, this tastes better and costs less than what you're going to the grocery store to buy. cpnlive.com, check it out. Hey, my name is Stan Solomon, and you know if I have something to say, I'll say it. And I'll only tell you the truth because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. Democrats always lie. Republicans only lie half the time. I don't lie at all. This is the Fuel Mule. It's an extraordinary product that was developed by a friend of mine, an engineer, and it increases the fuel mileage on your vehicle. If you have a combustion engine, this will increase your mileage by 10 to 20%. It bolts around your fuel line. You can install it yourself or have your mechanic do it. It is an extraordinary item, and it flat works. I've been using it for more than 10 years. It's increased my mileage on every vehicle I put it on, and by the way, it will last forever. You can get rid of your vehicle, just take it off and put on the next one. Go to cpnlive.com, You'll have more information there. You can order it right there. We absolutely guarantee you'll be satisfied. The Fuel Mule. It's a way to kick down your cost of fuel and kick up your mileage. Don't you love the name? I thought of it. The Fuel Mule. Let me ask you a question. Do you like being sick? I have in my hand an incredible product. It's called TR10 Supercolloidal Silver. TR10 stands for a trace to the negative 10th power. The particles in this silver product are 6 to 8 angstroms, 6 to 8 10 billionths of a meter. Now listen to me. Silver has been the magic bullet for all of human existence. The Egyptians used silver instruments. We use silverware. They put silver in your teeth because nothing can grow on silver. Silver will kill anything but liberalism. I'm working on that. This product, you go to cpnlive.com, buy 1 quart of this product. It will last you for a very long time. Anytime you feel like you've been exposed to something bad, take some of this product, spray it in your mouth, or take a little bit and gargle it, swallow it. It will kill any pathogen. The average antibiotic kills 10 to 20 different pathogens. This product will kill 700 plus. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do your doctor a favor. He's tired of seeing you. Get Supercolloidal Silver. Go to cpnlive.com, order the product. It's $29.95 plus shipping. I think it's $39.95 delivered any place in America right to your door. It's worth 10 times that. Check it out. If you're not 100% happy, just return it and we'll give you your money back.